Hello and welcome to this video training on the 3 course blueprints to increase engagement and course completion. So the 3 blueprints are called behavior change, process, and reference. So we're going to go through these, but the goal of this training session is to give you a rubric or a tool, a method to approach your learning content and the ability to create a structure around it that makes sense for the type of training that you're doing in a way that's going to help the learner make it from the beginning, stay engaged, and make it through your material. So what ends up happening is a lot of people start combining and mixing these different ways of teaching without really thinking about it. It's only natural. And what that ends up doing is it creates a disjointed experience which can decrease engagement, which can cause a student to get a little confused, and it just doesn't feel as natural when you're jumping around in these different types of teaching styles or architecture. So the first type of course blueprint that we're going to talk about is called behavior change. Now, behavior change courses are all about removing some kind of pain or heading towards some kind of desired outcome. So an example of a behavior change pain is a course about, let's say, losing weight, or a course about back pain. Those would be a course blueprint structured around using some kind of behavior, modifying behavior to get away from pain. Now, on the opposite of that, to achieve a desired outcome, let's say you want to focus on morning productivity, and that's like a desire that we want to move towards. So that would be a behavior change course. There's certain things that need to happen. Habits need to get installed. Bad habits first need to be made aware to the learner, and then those need to be either eliminated or replaced with a healthier habit, and so on. And then all those modifications to habit and schedule and the way the person interacts with the world over time shift to the desired outcome that then creates the behavior change, where it moves from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind, and now we have a better behavior. So that's the behavior change blueprint. So if you're teaching in this method, you want to just stay really focused on building, removing, and replacing habits. You want to make your instructional material and your design of all that digestible. You want to make sure there's lots of wins, especially in the beginning of the content when the motivation is the highest. And you just want to, kind of anticipate the stumbling blocks of someone trying to change behavior, which is really hard. If you have changed a bad behavior or added a good behavior to your repertoire, you know how challenging that can be and how long it takes before that becomes a habit. Some say it can take 30 days to create a new habit. So you really need to help structure your material in a way and a cadence that works for lasting habit and behavior change. Okay, the second blueprint is called a process. So this is the step-by-step course. So let's say, for example, I'm going to teach you how to train for your first marathon, or I'm going to teach you how to write a book in a weekend, or how to build a table for your first woodworking project. These are very much step-by-step. Now, depending upon the complexity of what process you are teaching people, from going from zero to completed outcome, it could be a long course if it's really complex, like, okay, I'm going to create a course on how to build a house. Well, a lot goes into building a house, so that's going to be a lot of steps. Whereas if I'm going to teach you how to build a wooden table, that could be a much shorter course. So length just depends on the complexity of the process that you are teaching. So the most important things for process-driven courses is to make sure you start at the beginning and not go before the beginning. Like, just start at the beginning. If you're teaching how to build a house, you need to imagine that somebody just bought a piece of land with nothing on it, and they walk up to the land and they're going to start building a house. That is the starting point. It's very important. And then there's the final outcome where the house is done, people can live in it, it's complete, it's habitable. So you need to have a clear starting point and a clear finishing point, and you need to not leave out steps. And if what you have is very complicated, it's also very important to use sections to kind of compartmentalize the different stages of, okay, this is the dirt work or the foundation part of the house, this is the framing, this is the plumbing, this is the electrical, and so on, so that people don't get overwhelmed with your 1,378 steps to build a house. And in fact, you may actually want to, depending upon the complexity of that process, you may want to divide it up into multiple courses so that people don't get too overwhelmed. So that is the process type blueprint. The third and final is called a reference course, or the reference blueprint. So this is when you're teaching a subject matter that is dynamic in nature. It may not have like a clear beginning or a linear path through which the learner moves throughout the content. So an example of that might be learning to program in a specific computer language, or learning to speak conversational French or Spanish or English. In those cases, it's something that doesn't necessarily start at the beginning and then finish in the exact same spot, and somebody moves through the exact same steps in order to master it. So when you're doing a reference course, organization is key. It's really important to realize that people have different learning styles. So for example, learning a computer language or a spoken language, it's important to note that some people are going to want the big picture. Let's use computer programming as an example. If I were to teach you how to use WordPress, I know there are people out there who are going to want to start at the high level, like what is web hosting, what is a domain name, what is a content management system, and there may be other people who are just want to go more just down to the ground floor, and they want to start with, okay, this is how you install the WordPress software, this is how you create your first blog post, and ultimately they'll figure out how all the pieces fit together, but they may want to start with just the very beginning, action-oriented steps. At the end of the day, the same two types of people could approach that reference course, the big picture thinker and the more ground up roots, let's start at the beginning thinker, and end up with the same skills, ability, knowledge, and wisdom. So reference courses can often be quite large, and perhaps you may need to divide them up into multiple courses where one's a prerequisite, so that it's not just a giant brain dump of content into one course, but there is a little bit of structure of, this is the beginner stuff, this is the intermediate stuff, and this is the advanced level stuff. So again, the 3-course blueprints to increase engagement and course completion are behavior change, a process, and then a reference course. So depending upon what your material is all about, I would encourage you to pick one of these, and then as you teach, as you design your material, to really stay within that paradigm. If you're doing a step-by-step course, stay step-by-step. If you're doing behavior change, make sure you're focused on the types of content that are required to reinforce habits and delete bad habits. And if you're doing a reference course, make sure that you have a really exhaustive collection of learning material that kind of surrounds the learner with the right material that they need and some guidance on how to approach this dynamic content. So I hope you enjoyed this video training on the 3-course blueprints, and I wish you all the best in building your online course.